Hey everyone, this is Cody and you're on the channel Cody Tarot. So today's reading was actually suggested by Rose Sharma. I think that's how you say her name. I'm just going to call her Rose for fear of butchering her last name, which I probably already did. Anyway, yeah, so this reading was suggested by Rose. And this is a reading of what will your parents or family think of your future spouse. So this is going to cover first impressions, and then after they also get to know them for a while, what they think of them in the long run. So let's get with the crystals. So first crystal we have here is group 1 is Azurite. Group 2, what we have here is clear quartz. And last, group 3, we have this amethyst cluster. So I'll give you a moment to pick your crystal right here. We'll pause the video if you need to, and after that we'll get on with the readings. All right, and with that, we'll move on with the readings with group number 1, the Azurite. Okay, group 1, this is if you picked the Azurite. So this is going to be your reading for what your family will think of your future spouse. So we have a few cards here. This card, I pulled an Animal Oracle Spirit card to represent how they're going to see them initially. So armadillo spirits set healthy boundaries. If you know anything about armadillos, they curl up into balls, right, when they feel like pressured or attacked or anything like that. So what we see here is the initial meeting between your family and your spouse is that your spouse is going to seem kind of like closed off a little bit from your family. Your family might not know them that well when they first meet them. They might not be opened up because it looks like they're a little shy at first. So your family might not really understand like what this person's about or who they are and stuff like that. We see here though that the relationship does warm up. Be in the present and dream of the future. When we dream, everything is possible. So being in the present, dream of the future just shows me that eventually over time, you don't want to expect it to happen too soon, but basically over time, your spouse and your family are going to warm up to each other. So the long-term interaction is going to be very fortuitous. So be in the present and dream of the future just represents that your family and your spouse are going to be the types that kind of can make plans together and kind of support each other's dreams in life. So, and they can kind of support each other's dreams and make practical plans to help the other one succeed into the future. And we also see that here again with the power of purpose. So this just represents that this kind of has a cog in it, like a mechanical cog right here in the background. I don't know if you guys can see that. And it says the power of purpose. So it's really going to ignite your spouse and your family are really going to have a sense of purpose. So there's going to be a sense of unity in the family. And there's also going to be a sense that everything works kind of like clockwork, that they're going to fit in really well, just like a cog fits into a machine. So, and I'm getting a lot of analogies to like working together. Like we see here with the 3 of Pentacles, this is like a teamwork, work, building environment. So it might be less of like a necessarily like, I'm not getting too many like cup energies. You know, we have swords, pentacles, and wands. So maybe it's less of a nurturing family energy and more of a coworker type of deal. So like, though there's still going to be bonds of camaraderie, but it's definitely going to be this kind of situation where everyone works well together. So they might not be emotionally close, but everybody works well together. And sometimes that is even better than being emotionally close because there's no stress of like, you know, someone's like, you sweep the floor. They're like, I hate sweeping the floor. So it's going to be those work activities are going to be divided up evenly between the family and your spouse. Your spouse is probably going to be a breath of fresh air as far as like practical matters are concerned, or vice versa. Your family will be a breath of fresh air to your spouse as far as practical type things are concerned. Now down here we have the transition from when your family first meets them to when your family their final impression of them. So first, when they first meet them, we have the Princess of Swords energy. And this is similar to the Knight of Swords in the regular tarot, but we have a different like whale here. So definitely this person's going to seem like a go-getter when your family meets them. They're going to kind of, their first impression is going to be kind of like, after this person, they warm up a little bit, they're going to be like, oh, this person's very like action oriented or action focused. But we also see here that because they're on a whale, they're going to see that they're very in touch with the dream world. And we also get that reiterated back here, where be in the present and dream of the future. This is definitely a situation where with your family and the family relationship with your spouse, where dreaming is going to be important. As in, you're going to be dreaming of like different plans and exciting things for the future, and you're really going to be tapping into like what your dreams bring you and making those things a reality. And they're definitely going to see that first. That's going to be the first little thing with them. Then they're going to notice that they all really work well together. So when they start bringing those dreams into fruition, they start creating that dream world and making it real. We definitely see that like they find that they work very well together and it's very cohesive. Last, but not least, they definitely start to notice, this is going to be a little bit after they see your spouse, maybe with other people or in different group or party situations, that they seem like a very sociable, charming person. They also seem like there's definitely an aspect in the relationship with your spouse and your family where they admire each other's achievements. So definitely if you have like a niece or nephew or someone maybe who, like, for example, is like has a piano recital, your spouse is going to be the person who's really supportive of their endeavors, or other family members' endeavors. If there's any like project or someone's working on or doing, your spouse is going to be very supportive, show their appreciation. And there's going to be a focus on mutual, a sense of focus on achievement. If your spouse is doing something, like maybe your spouse, say your spouse had the piano recital and they're into music and that's their hobby, then this person, then your family is basically going to be the ones that like show appreciation of their talents. And there's going to be kind of like an aspect of admiration, like deep admiration from your family and your spouse. And that's kind of where the whole thing lands, is like they really get this this admiration quality, that how you and your spouse and your family all get along very well in that department. So I hope that helped you figure out what your family will think of your spouse, first impressions and long term. So with that said, if you like the reading, like or comment below. If you really like the reading, you can subscribe to my channel. I post more pick a cards like this pretty frequently. I really enjoyed reading for you guys. And with that, moving on to group 2. Hello guys, this is if you picked the clear quartz as your crystal. This is if you were group 2. So let's get into your reading. So I have the Animal Spirit Oracle right here for first impressions of what your family is going to think of your spouse. So first of all, what we have here is Wolf Spirit. Turn knowledge into wisdom. They're basically going to see your spouse as very wise, very knowledgeable and wise. They're definitely going to come off as someone who's very well educated, someone who kind of knows what they're talking about and has the life experience to back it up. Turn knowledge into wisdom also is going to show that your spouse has a way of like taking the knowledge that your family provides. Like if your family knows some facts or some knowledge or information about life, they know how to take that knowledge and translate it into like something very wise, some kind of wise statement that is going to like make the family like really understand their own perspectives. And so this is I definitely see them bonding right away. Like it's a very strong first impression. They definitely seem like their family definitely respects them right off the bat. So that's really good. It's a very strong first impression. Now over here we have, where should I go next? Okay, let's go down into like how the family views them over time. So at first, this whole idea of turning knowledge into wisdom brings both parties a lot of success. So it's more specifically your family, brings your family a lot of success. So your spouse is kind of like this key to unlocking a lot of their potential. So what we see here with the 8 of Wands, a lot of things are going to happen quite quickly in the initial stages of the relationship. So if there is an issue, if there is something with with your spouse, and you like, maybe you get married and right away you meet the family, or right away you meet the family, or right away you start getting involved in family activities and family affairs. It's something fast paced is happening when they start to get to know your spouse. It's like they get to know them really quickly. And then you have this Ace of Swords here, which just shows that like, this is really just double confirmation of this turn knowledge into wisdom. Really, your spouse is going to be this sense of clarity for your family. They're really going to understand things better and more clear because your spouse is involved. They're kind of that person that if there's any ambiguous information in the room, or there's any kind of like aspect of like confusion or cloudedness in the atmosphere, your spouse really clears it up by like a few sentences or words, and then everything's like clear. Everything's like, oh wow, okay, we got the clarity again. We got that insight again. We're all that clear thinking. Now later in the relationship, I guess these are not like difficulties, but they are definitely things to watch out for. So later towards like as you guys keep getting to know each other and stuff, like the very beginning is very fast paced and very like bright and clear. Now later when you get into like this situation, there's almost an aspect that your spouse is kind of like trying to teach your family, or your family is trying to teach your spouse. So it turns into more of an educational experiment. What just became as like kind of wisdom turns into kind of like this almost like a Pygmalion project, where I don't know if you can see this woman like painting this pentacle on this man, right? Where you're trying to make someone into something that like something different, I guess is the best way to put it. And literally taking this into meaning like aspects of your family where they try to like maybe impress their values, or their way they deal with money, or the way they those different little things that they're going to be more like nitpicky, I guess, about certain things about your spouse. So we have this aspect of like kind of like nitpickiness and kind of like wanting things to get done faster and more efficiently. And we have that here with have patience. Love is patient and kind always. So honestly, with this oracle card, if you guys just remember this, if your family and your spouse remember this, to have patience, love is patient and kind always, everything's going to work out for the better. It really shows that this is kind of the key to you guys having a successful relationship, is that you both parties want to have patience, right? Now the thing is, I can see that like you really love your spouse, and you also really love your family. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is going to be a good position to be a good diplomat and just explain like, look, you know they don't do things as fast as you want them to, or they don't do things as they'll do them. It's obviously one of those things where the demands get satisfied, but having patience is a very key important part of the process, because that way your future spouse and your family kind of let the other person do things on their own. It's almost as if they get so entwined. I mean, this knowledge and this wisdom, this kind of understanding that they share right immediately, makes them kind of feel, how do I put this? Makes them feel very close and connected at first, but what it's different is they have different ways of implementing projects. That's the best way to put it. So they try to like enforce the methods of one person's way of changing projects to another person's way. And that's where we get the willing release card, right? Is you have to literally, it's about patience and a release. So the best way they're going to get along is if they kind of have patience, like let the person take their time and do what they need to do, and like just stand back and make sure they're patient. And the willing release card is just like letting go, right? Like letting go and letting that patience unfurl. It's kind of, these two kind of go hand in hand, have patience and willing release. So, and when you have that, it reunites and brings the relationship back to kind of the initial stage, that educational stage. And that's really where it thrives with your family and your spouse. So, I think that's it for the reading. If you like the reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, you can subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this pretty frequently. And with that said, I really enjoyed reading for you guys, and we're going to move on to group 3. Hey guys, this is if you picked the Amethyst cluster. So let's get into your reading about what your family is going to think of your future spouse. So first impressions, I pulled these animal oracle cards, and we have antelope spirit, life is speeding up. Basically, when both of your spouse and your family first meet, there's going to be a lot of like fast-paced action, fast-paced activity. There's going to be an element of, how do I put this? Of haste in the everyday activities. So maybe if you're like working on a project, or you're trying to get like to go on vacation somewhere, or you're just trying to have a nice dinner or something, there's going to be an element of like hurriedness to the interactions. Like maybe your spouse is hurrying your family, or your family's hurrying your spouse. But what I see here is that it's a little bit pleasant. It's kind of like there's just a lot of activity. So the relationship starts with a lot of activity, a lot of haste, and it's kind of like exciting. There's like this excitement to the whole thing with when your family meets your spouse. It's kind of like, ooh, this is exciting energy. This is fun energy. They definitely, as they get to know your partner, they definitely see them as a little bit wasteful. I don't know if you can see this card. This man's throwing this sword into this river with all these other swords, and they're on this journey. So I definitely see them as like, they have this aspect where they might start to first initially see your spouse as kind of like wasteful, as in they might like kind of use resources in the wrong way, or kind of, how do I put this? They just don't use their resources the most efficiently as like they would expect, or your family would expect. But then we see here later, they develop this really great relationship where your family sees your spouse as like really strong. They see them as really, look at this guy, and he's holding the mouth of this dragon, and he's basically like controlling this crazy beast. So they definitely will see your spouse as someone who has crazy amounts of control over their life, someone who is like very strong, sturdy, reliable. And also on top of that, they definitely see them as someone who is, definitely is not afraid to look like difficulties in the eye and confront them. They're definitely someone with inner strength. We see later, here we have an interesting combination, because once they see this inner strength, there's an interesting thing kind of happens where your family kind of, because of this strength and this endurance and how strong they are with things in life, people who are strong like this, like your spouse is, can sometimes attract antagonism from others because they're so strong, that others kind of instinctively, this happens with a lot of people in a lot of areas of life. If you have someone who's very strong and sturdy, other people will try to break them down a little bit, if that makes sense, kind of like to break down the facade, or just to keep them strong, right? We actually see it's a very positive thing here, or it turns into a very positive thing. But we see that here with the Ten of Swords. Eventually your family, once they realize this person's very strong, they start to like kind of throw barbs at your spouse. And we see here that it has like an interesting effect where your spouse, like, I don't know if you can see this card right here, but your spouse, this woman is like unaffected by all these swords in her, but her reflection is like shunning it, kind of. And the way I'm seeing that, I'm not quite taking it so literally, but I'm definitely seeing this woman in the reflection and being unaffected by the swords. It's like your spouse is kind of unaffected by the swords, but this beautiful thing happens, right? Where with your family and your spouse, where you have this situation where once the swords are like in the spouse, basically, this whole thing of broken open happens, right? And this just represents, like, I see broken open as kind of this whole idea that someone has been prying and trying to get into you, and then eventually you open up and your heart shows through. So this interestingly, this strength facade in your family, like kind of digging at this person's strength, eventually leads to this beautiful thing of broken open, where their heart starts to show through, your spouse's heart starts to show through, and there's like a more of an empathetic connection with your family. We have here just one of the last kind of like final little warnings. Practice compassion, see things from a fresh perspective. That's really going to help that practice compassion. When your family is kind of like testing the strength of your spouse, it's good to, even when you're throwing barbs at someone, or even when you're kind of trying to test their strength or see what they're have. And really, this comes from a healthy place. Your family's just trying to get them to open up a little bit, right? Sometimes strong people in life don't open up. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to pry them open or break them open. And once they like feel open, everything's like good and compatible. Your family's like satisfied, your spouse is satisfied. The relationship really kicks off to a pretty good experience between your spouse and your family. But there's definitely this endurance and testing phase and the initial phase of your family and your spouse meeting. It seems like your family kind of wants people to be honest and truthful and open with their heart, especially their heart chakra. And your spouse is kind of more closed off, and they do appreciate your spouse's strength. They really do. This card would not be here if they didn't appreciate their strength. They definitely see them as someone who can handle a lot in life. But they still want them to open up. So that's where this Ten of Swords comes into play. They just see that they're, kind of can take a lot of things, but, before they finally hit this break open stage and open their heart up to your family. So that was the reading for if you picked this Amethyst Group 3. If you like the reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, you can subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this pretty frequently. And with that said, this was the last reading. I really enjoyed reading for you guys. And I guess I will see you all in the next video. Bye.